it's room temperature.
That's important.
So I haven't been as hydrated as I've
Mhm.
wanted more recently due to the cold, dry air.
So cold.
And it was suggested that I drink room temperature water because your body is room temperature and it'll help you hydrate better. So, boring room temperature water, trying to make it look pretty and sexy throughout the day. So, that is where I'm at with that. So, I know with the market, we have a couple things to discuss within the real estate. Oh, are you back?
I'm here. Here
You
I am.
froze for a
I
quick
know.
second.
I noticed that you just kept going though, which was awesome. I was like,
Perfect.
maybe no one will
So,
have to know, but now we know. It's okay. I'm back.
now we know. But the market yesterday, or not yesterday, but last week, a couple of reports came out, and we all like those acronyms. I know when we talk about the Federal Reserve, I call it Fed Daddy. I have my little isms, but there's a couple of reports that came out last week that I'm the economic reports that have come out, I'm a little bit disappointed in, and I would really like to know and really figure out how Christmas affected so much. So, the CPI, which is a consumer price index, their report came out about I want to say, the stabilization of the mortgage rates and how
Mhm.
that fits together, the inflation and where the consumers were shopping and how that relates to real estate. What it is that the inflation has continued to cool down, which
Mhm.
is good, but I
Mhm.
felt the opposite. So I'm reading this report. I've read a couple of reports, and it's interesting because I felt as if prices went up during Christmas. So for the their December report to come out saying it's cooled down, I'm a
Yeah.
little shocked about. But cooling down
Doesn't it
helps
always
stabilize.
though? Doesn't it always at Christmas because they're
I
trying everybody's shopping and they're trying I wonder if I think you might be right. I think Christmas might have had something to do with some pricing on some stuff. Because
yeah,
everything
but
else went
it's
down. Gas is down across the country. Everyone's posting that their gas is down and
yeah, and
yeah.
we definitely like that. I believe it was like 323 one day and it dropped down to 282 the next, which
Yeah.
is so comfortable for us traveling. But
Yep.
that is an indication of the inflation cooling down, which helps stabilize all the rest of the market,
Right.
mortgage rates, all of it. So to have the Fed see this, they're going to be cautious
Mhm.
moving forward with their next reports that are coming out. So Fed
Okay.
Daddy is going to take a look at the inflation and they're definitely going to take it a little bit easy and take it cautiously because this is a December report. What does
Right.
this look like? Is that a normal gauge because of all the consumers spending so much money and what that looks like? So it would be great to see buyers see the rates settle down, and we kinda have. Now,
Yeah.
of course, we're not saying the word drop, but that decline and
Mhm.
what that all kinda goes to. So when these reports come out, these economic reports, especially about the finances, what this matters to the real estate industry is how this affects the consumers and what they see and
Right.
what they perceive. So now that we're seeing inflation kind of cooling down a little bit, but it's not fast enough. And I'm curious to see how the Federal Reserve will actually take a look at this
Right.
and gauge it. So
Okay. Good to
I'm
know.
yeah, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to get in. Now, you can't make those acronyms sexy. CPI. Oh, what's CPI? What is
Well, everyone
there's
knows
so
inflation. Everybody knows
they
inflation.
do, they
Everyone
know the
is
key
watching that
terms.
number. Like, is it 2.7? Is it 2.5? Is it 2.2? Like, I know they wanted it 2.2, 2.3, something like that. I think Trump would love it to have it at 2, but I think it's always been like, like an around there. But that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good
Then
to
a
So,
couple other reports that came out were the sales reports for November. So we're getting there showing that the spending has rose just a little bit, again,
mhm,
strengthening the economy, establishing we're moving in the right direction but
Yeah.
not exactly fast enough that we would like to see how that would affect the real estate market. It's
Right.
rising, the
Yep.
stability is getting there, which is great. So it definitely has helped. I didn't know if you know anything about the reports that came out last week about the housing reports and the influx of that.
Me in what way?
Like for the existing homes and the building, the permits are up for building new homes, which is a good indicator for 2026.
Yeah, no,
And
the new construction is definitely like
we need it.
they're huge right now. And that's one of the things I know we're going to talk about buyers in a second. For anyone joining us, thanks so much for joining us. And we're just doing like a quick overview of the financial markets because there was a lot that happened last week. And then we're going to dig into our topic, which I think everyone really needs to know about. If you're going to be a buyer this year or anytime at all, you really do need to know. But really quickly, one of the things really quickly the Trump administration is doing 7 major things. We've talked about some of them in the past. Cece, I don't know if you're there or not. It's just a red screen, but I'll keep going. So what they've done, they have 7 major areas that they want to see some change in. Focus on real estate. So when you focus on real estate, um, it's awesome because that's what we need, right? We're trying to, Cece just gave some background on some of the financial markets and what's going on, the rates attached to the bond market. One quick thing I'll say is one of the things Trump administration is looking at doing is buying back $200 billion in mortgage bonds, which will affect the rate because it's tied to the bond market. So that's one of the big things. But to answer your question, with the whole building, that's something else that they're considering for 2026 is giving builder incentives if they are going to build an affordable home, meaning if they're going to have a program for affordability in homes, they would be eligible potentially for whatever this rolls out, what it looks like. These are just, they're not policies yet, they're just being talked about right now, but I do think they're going to give some developers and builders incentives who are in line with the initiative for home affordability. So we're going to see it. That's like a TBD, like what's going to happen this year. But I think definitely we're going to see an influx in that, which would be great. That would be fantastic. So
Yeah, and with that, because we're now as a society moving towards we're for sure two-income family.
yeah,
Majority of America is a two-income family. Back 20
the
years
lucky
ago,
ones.
40 years ago, you could have the one working, one stay at home, however it
Hmm.
may work. But
Hmm.
now it is that
Yeah.
affordability and what that
Yes.
looks like. And I know the jobs reports have been coming out and they're talking about the cooling labor market and what that looks like for
Hmm.
what's happening. And I really am enjoying the mindfulness of that conversation of, okay, we want to keep our budget. And we talked about this last week. I really
Yeah.
like this conversation of what I want to spend monthly, not the
Hmm.
purchase price, but
Right.
monthly and what that looks like, which will help balance that seller buyer market. Because, of course, we're in a seller market here in Michigan,
Hmm.
not nationwide. I know everybody who's watching, we are nationwide right now, live on YouTube. But in our area and other areas, the seller market is balancing out here in quarter one, it'll balance out, but then it'll become stronger as a seller market as Q2 hits, then
Yes.
Q3, and it's only going to get stronger. So
Yes.
we are definitely going to keep our eye on these economic reports, establishing how inflation is treating us, what Fed Daddy's going to say, what the labor market is going to establish moving forward past the holidays.
Yeah.
So I think Q1 is really going to show us where we're going to be heading into quarter two in the housing market for
Yeah,
sure.
I think absolutely. So speaking of buying a house, there's some salacious headlines that I think it's funny because it's not anything new, but you sent me the meme. Well, as a girl doing a reel talking about how, oh, the first buyer lawsuit. Now it's not the first one
It's not
because
the first one.
it happens all the time, but she put it out there, mainstreamed it, And so now I think it's definitely a conversation. Anybody who's paying attention on social media, because if one person does it, you already know other people are going to jump on. So we like to be first in bringing everybody the news, right? But this isn't news. I think we just need to quickly talk about, and we can go in depth on however deep we need to go. But when you're going to buy a house, you know, like 99% of people will go to a real estate agent. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And most of them are just common sense because they don't know how to do this process, right? It's really hard to do it on your own. And there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a
Yes.
lot that can go wrong. And so when you're choosing an agent, you ask yourself, a lot of questions. We've already gone through those. We don't have to go through those today. How do you choose a good agent? How do you choose your lender? But you do have to choose somebody. When you call an agent, we had something called this big NAR settlement. Everybody heard about that. The
Oh, we
national,
have. It's the gossip.
the whole groundbreaking earthquake, National Association of Realtors. I actually like what came out as a result of it. I don't like the fact that it had to happen, but I liked some of the things that came out resulting for it because it put some things in practice that we're going to talk about. But with that NAR settlement, what they did was they made it essentially illegal for an agent to show a house without some sort of a buyer agency agreement or an agreement that says there is no agency relationship with this buyer. So, like if I have a listing and I'm showing it for my seller to a buyer who comes to me, I'm essentially staying a seller's agent and I'm showing it to this buyer because I'm trying to sell it for my seller. But the buyer understands I'm not a fiduciary responsibility to you. I'm not a full buyer's agent for you. I'm still a seller's agent. So there's so many different ways that this happens and this needs to happen. And then people I don't think are clear on it. So you've got your people who will just come to you because they're on Zillow. Breathe, take a sip. And they're still on Zillow. They're on Zillow. They see my listing. They find me. Now, if they don't know, they just click see the house and they get sent to some random out there who isn't me. Okay. But if they know, if they're really smart and savvy and they scroll down and they look for a listing agent and they find me, they call me directly and they say, hey, you've got a listing. Can you tell me about it? Awesome. Can you take me to see it? I sure can. I need your email address. And I also need to know, are you pre-approved? Because that's another thing. Sellers want to make sure that people actually can afford their home before they come see it. Shocking. I know. It's not window. You don't get to
Who
just
knew?
tell someone to get out of their house and come to a showing and you haven't even gotten pre-approved yet. So 2 questions. I say, great. Is this a cash? Are you purchasing with cash or are you using a lender? If they don't have a lender, fantastic. Let me give you Cece's information so that you can get pre-approved. She'll get you pre-approved as quickly as you get her what she needs. You will have that piece of paper, my friend. And then we'll set up a showing. I'd be happy to take you to go see it. A lot of the times they already have that ready to go. Perfect. They don't have an agent. They need to ask them that question. And then I can show the house after I send them something that they sign that explains I work for the seller. I'm showing you the house. If you want to work with me and buy the house, I can facilitate that as a seller's agent. Again, no legal responsibility to the buyer because you, in my opinion, and in EXP's opinion, they don't like dual agency. You can do it, they just don't like it because it's a mess. So my legal responsibility stays to the seller. That's easy. I can do that. Show the house. If they want to work with me, we can still do that. I cannot show that house without something in place. The only way you can go see a house without signing something with an agent is if it's an open house. That's the loophole. And that's why you'll see a lot more open houses lately. When you don't need an open house to sell a home, but that's the one way someone can come and see it if they haven't chosen an agent yet and they're not, they can just walk through it, right?
And
That's
even
the
during the
first
open
scenario.
houses that I go to, that I help, because it's always good to have a lender on site that know taxes and
Absolutely.
they can answer questions. But some of the tire kickers, they may say that they have an agent, but they don't. Or
Right.
if they do, then when I hear that they do, then they're like, "But I could get a better deal with working with a listing agent." So
Hmm.
can I ask you a really quick question and detour
Sure.
you just a little bit? During
Absolutely.
those open houses, what does that look like when someone says, "Yes, I have an agent, but can I get a better deal if I work through you?"
So if you're following the code of ethics and you don't want to lose your license, you would basically say, okay, so you have an agent. Have you signed a buyer agreement with this agent? Have you signed anything? If they say they've signed something, then I say, I can't work with you because you're under contract with an agent right now. I can't work with you. If they say to me, I haven't signed anything. I just I'm just talking to an agent, because remember, they should not be seeing houses. Sometimes I'll say, is your agent actively showing you houses? And then I'll say, you're likely under contract, unless they're breaking the whole everything. And that's how, because they just want to, they don't, I'm trying to protect them is what I'm getting at. Because if they think they're just going to push their agent out and work with me because it's a benefit to the seller and they see that as their way in, long term, if they have signed, and this is the whole point of today, if they have signed a buyer agency agreement, a contract with that other agent, they are responsible to pay that agent a commission when they purchase a house under the time frame on that contract.
What
That's
is
what
a
the
time
cost,
frame typically?
at least 6 months, depending
Okay.
on the client, depending on what they want, depending on a lot of things. But I
That's
would
a
say
long time to
it's really
commit to
not.
one person.
It's really not,
Could
because it used
could
to
you
be
ask
people are
for,
taking
like, 90
forever.
days?
You could. I wouldn't do that as a buyer's agent, to run around, because I know that they don't usually find it right away. I know how with the time frame. If they only want to work with me for 90 days, I would say, why do you only want to do a 90-day contract? If you don't find the house in 90 days, then what? Right? I want them to say to me the truth, which is, what if we don't like you? Perfect. That's why we're having a
Okay.
buyer consultation. So I go through everything and I'm like, this is an important relationship. If you're not happy working with me, here's what you do. And I tell them exactly. You call me first of all and say, Hallie, this isn't working. We feel like whatever it is, like you're not answering your phone or you're not getting us into these homes, which has never happened. But let's say
But it
I want them to feel confident, because I know what they're thinking. If they don't know me personally, I know they're wondering this. So I'm like, here's what you do. You tell me, and if it doesn't get rectified, then you go to my broker. And I always tell them her name is Christy Rice, and she's the broker of all of EXP. And I'll give you the email address. And you send a message to them and saying, this agent that I'm under contract with is not performing up to what the contract says. We want out of our contract, and she's not letting us out. I said, here's the thing. If you tell me you don't want to work with me, I'm going to let you out of your contract, because number one, I don't want to force a relationship that isn't there. Number two, it's because I want you to be so happy with me that you're referring everybody to me, not, oh my gosh, so angry and frustrated. And now it's a horrible transaction for everybody. So I want to verbalize it. If they don't have the ability to say to me to my face, we don't know if we're going to like you. We don't know if you're going to do what you're promising. We don't know. And we're nervous being stuck in a contract with you. I tell them, this is how you get out of it. If you're not happy with me, you come to me right away and say, we're not happy. Let's talk it out. If it doesn't get resolved, and if I didn't let you out of the contract, you go right to the broker. And they all usually laugh. They're like, oh, we wouldn't have to do that. I'm like, but I want you to know that that's your rights, because this is a legally binding contract. And you're responsible for everything that it says here. Enter the situation
okay.
we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah. No, and understanding that contract, because I even have questions because I've seen it on the mortgage end. Excuse me. I've seen it on the mortgage end just a little bit where it can go south. It
Mm-hmm.
protects you, it protects everybody. It kind of reminds me of how our industry changed for us in 2008
Mm-hmm.
with the Dodd-Frank
Yeah.
Act and
Yep.
how that changed things, where we had some specific nuances that actually ended up protecting us in the long run. Even though in 2008, it's very much like the NAR situation. Everything blew up. We're
Yeah.
seeing how everything shakes out. Now I look back and I am very blessed. I got really heavy into the industry after 2008,
Same.
after the act was done, because that saved a lot of uncomfortable conversations and
Mm-hmm.
protected me as a loan officer.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
seeing
So
this, it sounds like this is protecting you. Just fast forward almost just shy of it.
well, it protects the buyer when the agent, so it's always their agent. If you hold a license as a real estate agent, it is your responsibility to protect the consumer. If it's your
Mm,
client, if it's not your client, that's part of the code of ethics. And what that means is when somebody calls me on the phone or comes to me in open house, I need to make sure they're not under contract with an agent before I can work with them in any capacity. Because if not, that's breaking that code of ethics. Do agents do it? They do. And they should be held accountable to that, because that's not right. But On the other side of it, when you are the consumer and you sign a legally binding contract, you also need to live up to that contract. So you don't sign a contract with an agent just because you're like, oh, I just want to go see some houses, but then go off on your own, meet with another agent at an open house or any other scenario and be like, I want to work with you too. And lie and say, I don't have a contract with anybody else. Because what happened to this person that it was online, the agent found out. So they're under contract with an agent. Let's just say her name is Anne. And then this buyer's under contract with Anne as a buyer's agent. This buyer went to Tammy and said, you know what, I want to buy a house with you. And we're going to assume that Tammy didn't know about Anne for this example. And then Tammy gets this buyer under contract. Tammy sells this buyer a house. Anne finds out that her buyer purchased a home with another agent. So she tells her brokerage, whomever she's with, ABC Realty. ABC Realty, because the brokerage owns the client, not owns the client, but that relationship, they are in charge of that. They then sue the buyer for breach of contract. Now, there were people in the comments that were upset about that, but I will say no, because that buyer knew what they were doing. These contracts are pretty obvious. When you read them, it states what's happening. You know what you're getting into, okay? If you choose to do that and then go break it, just know you can be sued. If you're under contract for, let's say, 3%, I'm just throwing that number out there, you will have, and you bought a house for $400,000, you will now have to pay your agent, their brokerage, $12,000, and they will win when they take you to court because you use a breach of contract. And you can't, what frustrates me is, everybody deserves to be paid for what they do. Whoever's
They
watching
do.
right now, whatever you do, if you get paid every 2 weeks,
Are
every month,
you
or if you're
worth the
a
money you
contractor,
make? Yes.
yes. So why should this agent not be paid for working with this person who decided to do something shady, right? It's not right. So you
Mhm.
can't ask someone to run around and work for you for free. There's a lot of costs involved in what we do. And it's also completely unethical. So yes, if you as a buyer breach a contract, you can be sued and you will lose if you signed. And out of your pocket, you will have to pay. And it has nothing to do with the other agent or anyone else. It's directly with you. The contract is with you as the buyer. So that's what we want to talk about today, because there are people who think that they can just run around and have people, at their disposal. And that,
Willy-nilly.
right, like, oh, you just have to, it's like you're a firefighter running to go show a house and putting out fires. No, it's a contract.
Well,
You're
and
in a
it's
contract.
time. It's
You're in a
your
contract.
time. So on my end, let me teach how I kind of check a little
Mhm.
bit because I'm not involved. I have nothing to do with it. I received the purchase agreement. I don't see other agreements at all. But I
Right.
did have a client who on here on the east side of the state works with one very specific realtor. We've done 3 homes with this gentleman. Well, now he's looking at an investment property on the west side of the state. That's great. And they want to work with a different real estate agent. So he gave me her number. I contacted her. I'm like, "Are you working with this agent A over on the east side?" And she's like, "What agent?" I'm like, "Well, we've actually had 3 homes gone under contract and helped them purchase other investment properties. Are you helping this agent?" And she's like, "No, I did not know about that agent." I'm like, "Okay, let me
Wait,
give
the
you her."
agent or the buyer?
So the agents didn't know about each other,
Right.
but the
Okay.
buyer knew that he wanted an agent on the west side of the state and didn't think about it. Like, he was oblivious to the fact that every single time he's searching for a new investment property, he signs buyer's contract. So all of a
That's
sudden,
different investors. Yeah, that's
yeah,
different. They
so
can do that.
now I have this investor who's looking on the west side, and I'm like, well, playing devil's advocate, she does know the west side very, very well. The east side agent maybe knows enough, but not the sections that he may be looking for. So
Right.
I kindly gave her the other real estate agent's name and phone number and said, "Hey, maybe you guys should be working together, but that is up to the other agent. he does have a the buyer's contract? Am I saying
Yes,
this
it's a
correctly?
buyer contract. And what you're
Yes.
explaining is 100% okay as long as so on the contract, it'll say you're working with this person. What's the geographic location or whatever you put in, east side, like you said. And you can even say, this is the delineating line or however you want to put it, this area. And then the other area, the other agent would put in their area. Now, what's
Oh.
important to understand is on the agency relationship disclosure, which you should be getting with every purchase agreement. And I'll go over that in a second. If they're just sending you a purchase agreement, they shouldn't. If I just did that, I usually they reach out to me and say, hey, you forgot this. You do need this agency relationship because what it does is it says,
Yes, we do receive it.
yes, you should have it. It'll say, do you have another relationship with another agent? If you do, you say yes. It could just be, I'm working with her as a seller's agent. So she's selling my house. This guy's helping me buy. That's fine. Or it could say yes. And then you have to explain and you can say, buyer agent A is working with this section of the geography, and this agent is doing this. As long as it's spelled out and everybody understands it, and you've signed that, yes, you're letting this agent know, I do have someone else on the west side of the state, and you let the let the east side know, I do have someone else on the west side of the state. You can do that. It
Oh,
just has to be
interesting.
disclosed. It has to
Okay.
be disclosed on that form. That does go to the lender in the title. And the lender title should be looking at it too to make sure. Because if it says I have another agency relationship and it doesn't spell it out, they should stop and call their client and say, you do realize if you're under contract with someone else, you're going to have to pay them out. Like if you decided to do something shady, like that's where the stopgap should be. We all need to play that part to help because the buyer, if they don't think about it or don't realize it, they are on the hook for that. And it's important that we all understand. But the buyer lies and says no and signs, the buyer has to sign that, nope, I don't have another agency relationship. They have essentially said, there's no agency relationship, move forward with this transaction. Lender, title, we're good. There's nobody else involved, right? If you have someone else involved, it has to be disclosed on that agency disclosure. That's why it's called an agency disclosure.
Okay.
It's disclosure of real estate agency relationships is like the long title of it. So as long as you disclose it, it's fine. And the buyer contract will also say, what if I'm agent A, I am working in the Tri-County area, these counties only, right? And the other agent can say, I am working in these counties only. And that's fine. Those two documents will spell it out and you're fine as a buyer. Because that makes sense. Because I've had that happen before. Someone said, hey, all of a sudden, I'm under contract with someone. This just happened not too long ago, and you're going to know about this one. I'm under contract with this buyer. I was running around. We got under contract twice. Then she decided she wanted to live in Ann Arbor. Well, I don't work in Ann Arbor. It's too far. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a referral. And I got just a referral fee on that. But I also listed her property as well. But so I found an agent in Ann Arbor. Actually, she knew of one. And I said, I'm going to transfer her to you. I'm going to let her out of her contract with me. I'm going to refer her to you, and you're going to pay me a referral fee because I don't work that area. So she did it right. She came to me and said, I changed my mind. I don't want to live in these areas that we've been looking. I want to live here. And I said to her, I don't work there. Too far, right? So,
And again, it's the pockets of that neighborhood. Ann
yep.
Arbor, Birmingham, Grosse Pointe, uh, Grand Rapids. There's a lot of those type of cities that have different pockets of communities that sometimes you just kind of really need to know.
Well, and that I can do my homework on. That I have no problem. Like that's part of I feel like my job description is learning about these new communities. It's just the drive. If it's an hour and a half to get to a showing, it doesn't make sense for me to do that, especially in traffic when people are working. It doesn't make sense for me to spend a whole day to do some showings. It's not a good business decision. So, and it's not going to help that client. If they want to see a house in Ann Arbor, let's say they spent the night there with the family members and they want to go the next morning and I can't get there at that time, I can't really service them properly. So it makes sense if I can't service it properly and if it's not geographically, doesn't make sense with traffic patterns and every time of year, if it's snowing and you know what I mean? It's going to take me 2 hours to get somewhere. It doesn't make sense to do that. So I'd rather make sure that I give them a referral to a great agent that's right there that can service them well. Oh,
Yes.
oh, there we go.
Oh,
Here I am.
Yeah, you didn't freeze at
Hello,
all.
England.
That was a quick turnover. You're
Yeah, it
good.
took a second.
Yeah.
So that being said, the next scenario is the traditional scenario. Bob comes to me and Bob wants to buy a house. We do our
Our internet, by the way,
someone
everybody,
was
just
trying to
who's
call me.
watching this,
Yeah,
if you've seen anything on the news, we're in Michigan. You've seen the weather's crazy here. Our internet is flaking
wonky.
up and down, so just be patient with us
Yes,
because
thank you.
even I can see the icon on my phone go in and out,
I know, I'm
in
so
and out.
stressed seeing it. I'm
I
like,
know. So
just give us 45 minutes.
if it
So
gets a little wonky, be patient.
yeah,
It's 3 degrees outside right now
ugh,
or sub-zero. I don't know. It's
terrible out
cold.
there. Yeah. So back to Bob. So Bob, we're under contract. I have a meeting with him. We go out looking for homes. He's under contract with me for the period of time. Usually it's 6 months. Okay, with me it's 6 months. Um, and if we find a home, everything's great. Now, if Bob decides that he's going to go to an open house without me, he can. He can go to the open house. That's totally fine. You're allowed to go to an open house. But if he wants to put an offer in that house, he needs to call me. First of all, I wish he would just call me so I can make it to the open house with him so I could actually see it and advise him better, and look up comps and whatnot. I don't have to have that. I can do it without it, but it's just nice. But if Bob decides to do what you started off talking about and pulls the agent aside and says, hey, if I work directly with you, does the seller get a discount in commission? Most of the time, the seller does. And a lot of people know that. So if Bob goes to that agent and the agent says, do you have an agent? And Bob says, no. Um, Puts in the deal, gets the house. And I'm like, Bob starts ghosting me, right? Like a bad date, doesn't want to respond back. And I find out that Bob did this. I can let my brokerage know, and my brokerage will sue Bob because the brokerage has the fiduciary truly. I do, but also the brokerage basically owns the listings. The brokerage owns that agreement, right? That's the parent over the agreement. And so if there's an
Okay.
issue, they will handle it. So Bob shouldn't do that because EXP then can say, you know what, Bob, you were under contract with our agent with EXP.
Breaking the contract is what she was just about to say. Go ahead.
Not
Breaking the
completely.
contract.
It completely just kicked me out of YouTube altogether. Sorry.
Yeah.
You broke the contract and now we're taking you to court. And that's how that would go. So don't be Bob. Don't be that person. Don't be a shady person. And if you don't like who you're working with, first of all, have a meeting with them. How could this be um
New information.
did not happen? Sit down with the agent, ask him a bunch of questions, interview the agent, decide that you want to work with them, then sign a contract.
And that's where I'm shocked. I
Don't
am
sign a
so
contract if
shocked
you don't
that
want to work with the agent. Find
if
somebody
they
else you want to work with. But no, you have to sign with somebody to see
yeah, I
houses.
had a client who was told repeatedly, "Don't work with this person, he's difficult. Don't work with this person, he has a tough personality. Don't work with this person, just be careful if you work with this person." Well, they came back, my client, saying, "We really don't like this person," and they had a 6-month contract with him, and they're only in it about 2 months. But within the 2 months, he did show them legitimately at least 10 homes. They
Yeah.
were out shopping, shopping, and when he became difficult and undermined the wife, he did say a few things that she told me, and it wasn't good. He would talk to the husband one way and the wife completely
Yeah.
different,
You can't
put
do
her
that.
down, said, "This isn't from this is what she said, this is not a woman conversation." Like that bluntly.
I don't know how he's in business. You can't do that. Yeah.
Well,
This
maybe is a very specific
First
niche,
of all, you
but to
should
get
never do that. Not you can't do that anymore. You should never do that. Yes, we are real. Hello, 1865. Are
yeah,
you
we're
real?
real, not
We're
AI.
real.
If I was
For real.
AI, I would have prettier, like, fuller lips.
If I was AI, yeah, my hair would have been different today, but anyways, it is what
Yeah,
it is.
no, but that's interesting of what you're saying because they went into this contract knowing he was a hard realtor to work with. Maybe he was hard to work with, but his negotiation skills got exactly what you needed to be done, and you
Mhm.
kinda traded it. So what ended up happening, and I found interesting, is that they actually had to pay him to get out of the contract because he did show them X amount of houses, and they thought that was unfair. To me, no, that's time, that's money, that's doing homework. Again, like
Right.
what you said, is that house worth it? Is that the price point that home should be? There's homework that goes involved with it, but what you said actually just sparked that example. What does that look like when that agent did run you around?
So it has to be
Do
in the
they get
contract.
compensated?
Not if it's not in the contract. So I don't have anything like that in my contracts because it sounds like this guy already had it in his contract because he knew that he was difficult and he's had people that have not wanted to work with him in the past. So that's why they got stuck with that. It's part of his contract. And it probably said something like, if you decide to break the contract or leave before the contract period ends, you owe me X, Y, and Z. And it has to lay it out for my time, for my gas, for my whatever, right? So, and then they have, or there's a lump sum fee to get out of the contract, but that would be in there. If that wasn't in there, then no, this person doesn't owe him anything. But let me take it a step further. If that agent says, I'm not letting you out of the contract, they could say, hey, if you pay me something, I'll let you out. But really, it should have been in that contract. But let's say the agent just refuses to let them out. Then that buyer needs to do what I mentioned earlier on and go to the broker, find the broker of this. If it's a brokerage model, it'll be of that exact location. If it's EXP, there's one broker for the whole state, whatever state you're in. I can't speak to all of them, but you find out what that model looks like. You find out who the broker in charge of this agent in this office is. You go directly to them and you ask them for help. Hi, I'm in a contract with your agent. I'm not happy. Here's what's going on. He or she won't let me out. Now, the broker then will go and try to resolve it and get you out of it. If the broker doesn't respond to you, if the broker isn't helping you, your next course of action is to go directly to our board of licensing. It's called LARA, LARA. Licensing and Regulatory Affairs is just lara.com. You make a complaint with the real estate board there of licensing. They will open up an investigation and then they will take it from there. It shouldn't get to that because nobody wants it to
Oh,
get to that,
so you
but
would
that's how
skip
it works. That's how it works, how you get out of it if you're unhappy as a consumer with the agent you're working with.
So you would skip your local board, like your Grosse Point Board of Realtors, or you would skip that process because they have
You could go to the board too. That's a good point. But most people have no idea that there's even a board. And if they even know, they don't know which board you belong to. It's not really
to and
easy to
there's
find.
multiple GMAR,
There's so many boards. First of all,
GPB,
they don't
yeah.
even know that the boards exist. And they don't know how.
Yeah, looking it up is challenging. I do have to admit, looking up what board, so going straight to Laura may be the best result.
Sorry. It
Nope.
kicks me out
Our
again. They don't know how to
again,
look you
our
up.
internet is so bad right
So now
now.
I know
It's
you're frozen. You're
am
frozen.
I?
Oh, now you're not. Yeah. So I'll
Okay.
just hurry
Yeah,
up
because
quickly.
it's
Clearly, we got to be done in a few minutes, anyways. And this is just
okay.
wonky what's going on. But yeah, so you could go to the board. So, like, I'm part of NAC board, the North Oakland County Realtor Association, something. I don't even know, whatever it is. NAC board stands for. You said there's GMAR, there's Grosse Point board, there's so many different boards. The point is, if you do know which board your agent is part of, and you can ask that question. Maybe you sit down with them when you're at the meeting and you say, what board of realtors are you with? That'll shock them that you even know what that is. Write it down so now you know. You could also go to the board and say, I'm having a hard time with this agent and I want out of my contract. See if the board will help you. The last step is the licensing, and nobody wants to have a complaint against their license. So it shouldn't get that far. I can't imagine an agent would hold on to that. Like, it's going to cost them so much, anyways. And then you have such a bad reputation with this client and anyone that they know. It's like, if it's
I
really
wouldn't
not
wanna
going
work
well,
with somebody that wouldn't
no,
wanna
just
work
let
with
them
me.
go. If it's that bad, it's just a good business decision to let them
Yeah.
go, if it's really not, the relationship isn't working. And listen, I get along with everyone, but there are some people I've come up with that are really difficult and I've had a really hard time. I've learned there are some people I should have just let out of the contract. They didn't ask to be let out, but I should have initiated it and said, you know what, I think we need to find someone else that can serve you, because it was a lot. They
Okay.
were a difficult, like, situation, right? And I have to be able to service everyone. And if one situation is taking 90% of your day, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, yeah. So there's just a lot of different. So what are we discussing? We're discussing basically buyer agency, when you as a buyer are working with a real estate agent, that's a legal contract, and what that looks like and the different variations of it, and how to make sure you're compliant and you don't get sued as somebody who gets under contract with someone and then goes and finds another agent and buys a house when you're under contract with the first one. That's what we're talking about today. Um, and how you can make sure that you avoid that by just making sure this is the person you want to work with, and you sit down and you ask them. You can interview. It's an interview process between the client and the agent. Sometimes the agent's usually interviewing too, just trying to decide, can I service this person? Like, when they start to tell you where they want to be, if they're all over the map and you're like, gosh, do I want to drive to 6 different cities every time we go show houses? Those are the
The
types of things.
expectations.
What are the expectations? What is the job that we're looking at
Mhm.
doing together? What's the areas that you want to look and be in? And some agents that are super busy might say, you know what? I have the perfect agent that just focuses on buyers that I can refer you to, in a
Yeah.
situation where it doesn't look like it's going to connect. But it's a time to really interview each other before you sign a contract. Make sure you want to work with this agent. Second thing, if you're just seeing one house with an agent, make sure it's not a full buyer agency contract, that it's just one form, one page that basically says, um, I'm just going to see, and the exact address of the home or homes you're seeing is on it. If I purchase one of these homes that I see with this agent, yes, then this agent is my agent. But if I
Now,
don't, I'm not under contract for any period of time. I'm only under contract for these addresses.
yeah, that actually gets quite annoying on my end. That's
I
where
only
I'll
do it
jump in,
Yeah, I only do it
where
once in a while.
I've had a few clients every time they went to, well, I'd run numbers because that's a big thing. Working
Yeah.
as team, running numbers, but I'd run numbers and then I have the agent saying he hasn't signed for this house because you have to
Mhm.
put the address to that house that you're gonna go see.
Right.
And that is, I don't know how those clients think that that's not annoying. Why not just do 30 days, maybe 60, blanket it, but every house, that's annoying.
So I
"Oh, well,
wouldn't
they
do
didn't
that
sign.
personally. Yeah, I
They
wouldn't do
didn't
that.
sign." And
Yeah, I
I'm
wouldn't
just
do
sitting
that.
there going, "Okay, the numbers are ran and they didn't sign. They're doing house to
Right.
house.
Right.
All right. All right. I'll play this game." So this is where I feel it. When those individuals, those type of buyers have to sign one for each house. It's like, why didn't you just sign 30,
Well, that's the
60?
buyer choice. No agent wants to do that
I
either.
know
No agent wants to
that was
continue to do this
it's
silly
so
little form.
hard.
Not a silly form. But here's the thing. If a buyer wanted me to do that, I would say, clearly you don't want me as your agent if you don't want to commit. You want me to commit to working with you. See, now that I've been in the business long enough, I don't mind this conversation. You want me to commit to working with you, but you don't want to commit to working with me. Can you explain why? If we can
Mhm.
work that out, great. If we can't, then I'll say, I just don't work this way. So if you would like me to refer you to someone who maybe a newer agent might be willing to do this, but a seasoned agent who is basically like top notch is not going to agree to this. They just aren't. It's maybe someone who's starving on the side of the road holding up a sign that says we'll work to show houses. They might do it. I'm not doing that, right? Like, if you don't want a relationship with me, that's okay. That's everybody's right, but I'm not going to do that. Like, you're either going to sign with me that you want to work with me and I'm going to give you my 110%, or you're going to say, you know what, I don't want to work with you. Either is totally okay. What's not okay is to be wishy-washy and think that you're going to play both sides of something. It's just not
And
fair and it's not
to
ethical.
set the expectation that we're all waiting on, okay, we've ran numbers, we found the house in order to go see the house, everything, all the homework is done. and then having to wait for that person to e-sign, do an e-signature,
Yep.
it's like, okay, well, they didn't sign, so we haven't gone, and I've just worked up numbers, which is my job, and I'm happy to do. But if you don't trust your agent enough to
Right.
do that 30,
Right.
60, 90, 6 months, whatever you decide, that address to address, that's when it comes and really affects me
Yeah.
because that becomes
Then you get to
challenging.
feel our pain with these people who just want to one off you all the time. And it's like, you're running numbers, waste like spending your time, or we're driving around in this weather, freezing to
Mhm.
death and putting miles on our car. So it's not
Yes.
fun for anybody. Nobody likes that
Mm-mm.
situation. And so you just shouldn't be in that situation, whether you're an agent watching this or if
Well,
you're a buyer watching this. You have every right to not be in that situation. You need to find someone you trust and can get the job done. Have a meeting with them. And if you're not 100%, don't hire them. I'd rather somebody not hire me than hire me and it's a hot mess. I like to work with people who want to work with me. That's when it's a lot of fun and that's when I enjoy it and we have a great time. I just had a closing today and it was a wonderful, it was a lot. It was, we worked really hard to get it to the closing table and then it's a celebration and it's really a pleasure knowing I made this happen for these people, and they appreciated me. That's who I want to work with. I think that's who everybody wants to work with,
that
people who
level of
understand.
appreciation.
They know we
Yeah.
work hard. They understand that we are a working person just like they are. I am supporting 3 kids who don't have a father anymore, who passed, and it's a lot. So if you're going to work with me, it's a relationship that I'm going to give you 110%, and I need to know that you are all in with me as well because whatever people do for a living, they deserve to be compensated for it.
And I
And
can
that's just how
completely
that goes.
understand,
Yeah,
especially in that scenario, me running numbers. If it is after hours, which we're talking about more after hours. We work more after hours than most people realize. At least
it's
I wanna
mostly what
say
we do. It's mostly
it's
what we
mostly what
do.
we do. I had 2
Nights and
clients
weekends,
last night.
baby.
I
Yeah,
know, 4:45, I had 2 clients within 5 minutes of each other. One was a brand new pre-approval and wanted to go for negotiations that
yep,
n last night, and then I had a one that was already out shopping going, "I found 2 homes. I wanna negotiate on this one." I ran numbers, made sure that the numbers worked for them. Again, running numbers, but here I am at 6 o'clock. I am a single mother of a teenage child who is on a protein diet, who's always hungry. And I'm waiting, she's starving, sitting there going, "Are you gonna feed me? Are you gonna
we
feed
gotta
me?"
teach her how to cook. We gotta teach that
She
girl
knows
how to
how to
cook.
cook. She knows how to cook, but I was doing one of the Trader Joe, meals, and I
Mhm,
had the whole thing set, and I was actually really excited to cook. But it's our time, and I love working after hours. I don't mind working after hours. That's not the point, but just being reasonable with the
yeah,
time
yep,
is helpful.
yeah. And you guys actually have hours, I don't. Like, when someone says, "What are your work hours?" I don't have a set hours. I work when people need me because it's real estate, so
Oh.
I don't have that.
What are my
I
set
don't have
hours?
hours. Like, when people are I'm like, "Listen, I'm not working on Christmas, okay? I'm not working on Christmas or Christmas Eve because I host it. Not working on Thanksgiving. Outside of New Year's Eve, if I even have plans, which lately, this year I didn't do anything. But that's it. Like, if I'm not here because I'm on vacation, which is very rare too, which we're gonna change that, then I'm
Yeah.
not working. But I have somebody else who's covering for me. But yeah, I don't mind because I do understand people work till 5. So they're going to get off work and they're going to call me and say, "Can I go see a house?" And I'm going to say, "Yeah." That's what I got into as a real estate agent. You're a little
Mhm.
different because you're, at a computer and you're able to work, you can get things done and they can come to you before they want to see the houses so you can get it done for them so then I can take them out whenever they're free. And that's just how it goes. That's what I signed up with as an agent and I'm good with it. On that note though, I think it was a great
You gotta
conversation.
don't you gotta go?
I do. Yes.
Yes.
So it was a
It's
great
11:30
conversation.
on the dot.
Because we're awesome like that. Got to go help a
Yes.
friend who's getting married. Got to go show up with the champagne and try on dresses. Yes,
Mm. Is
yes.
she gonna buy a house? No, okay. Like,
Going with
let's
the
close
builder.
that
Yeah,
deal.
they're building. Well, she's a real estate agent, so let's just put it out there. She's actually a real estate agent, so she's doing her own. But if she wasn't a real estate agent, I know she would have called me.
Yeah. No,
But
she's
yeah,
sweet.
it's amazing. And this is a great topic. So if you just joined us or if you're watching the replay, we're live on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. typically, somewhere between 10 and 11. And we love talking about anything that has to do with real estate, mortgage, what's going on in the financial market, how it affects real estate. And we love questions. We love comments. So if you have a question or comment, just put it below.
Let us
We will
know.
we will talk about it next week if you'd like. If there's anything specific you want to know, and of course, just tap the bell for notifications so you know when we're live and when we post new content. I have a lot of other content out there as well, real estate and a podcast and all these other things. So feel free to do that. Like our episode and check our podcast as well. You can see everything. You can go back and watch. This is episode 55, 54,
Right around there.
54 or 55. But we've
Mhm.
talked about everything under the sun, and we're always open to branching off the discussion into what is important to you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Cece Machieski. Let's talk
Yes.
mortgages, of always joining me and being such an amazing expert with all things mortgages. And we will see everybody next week.
All right.
Be
Bye.
best.